All right, so get ready because today we are taking a deep dive into pranic healing. And
Oh,
we're going to be looking at it through a really fascinating lens,
yeah.
the lens of the law of one.
Very cool.
Yeah, so this is going to be a really interesting deep dive, I think, because we're going to be covering a lot of ground.
Yeah, we are.
So pranic healing, I mean, where do we even begin with that?
Well, I think it's really interesting because you've got a very practical healing system,
Uh-huh.
and then you have this more kind of cosmic perspective from the law of one. So
Mm.
it's like looking at energy healing through both a microscope and a telescope at the same time.
I love that. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
So pranic healing, I mean, just from the sources that you sent, it seems like there are a lot of different definitions,
Mm-hmm.
but what is it really?
Well, I think in essence, you could say that it's an ancient science and art
Okay.
that utilizes this thing called prana, this vital life force energy,
Right.
to promote healing.
Okay, so prana, I mean, sometimes you see it called chi or ki or yeah,
Yeah.
vital life force energy, but
It's all the same thing.
it's all the same.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's important to note that pranic healing, it's not meant to replace conventional medicine.
Right.
It's really meant to be complementary,
Got
to
it.
work alongside
All right.
traditional healthcare.
One of the things that I thought was really interesting was that the prana can be drawn from different sources.
Yeah.
So it's not just, this energy within our bodies, but it can come from the sun or the air or even
Hmm.
trees.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one of the sources even mentioned, like drawing ground prana up through the soles of your feet,
Oh, yeah, the soul chakra.
which I thought was crazy.
It's a very specific technique.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
visualize it, and it's very powerful.
that's wild.
It is.
So that's where it starts to get really interesting, I think, with the connection to the law of one.
Absolutely.
Because the law of one talks about light,
Oh,
right,
it does.
as this fundamental building block of everything.
Everything.
And
Yeah.
this light can condense into matter, and it's influenced by vibration and love.
Yes.
So if we think of prana as like a manifestation of this universal light
Yeah,
at a physical level,
that's right.
suddenly pranic healing
Yeah.
starts to seem a lot more powerful, or at least a lot more, I don't know, maybe mystical is the wrong word.
Well, it takes on a whole new dimension, right?
Yeah.
When you think about that connection.
It's like we're tapping into the fabric of creation.
You are. That's exactly what you're doing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like amazing.
So we've got this universal energy, this light condensing into prana,
Right.
which is this life force energy that pranic healing is working with.
Mhm.
But how does that actually flow through the body?
That's where the chakra system comes in.
Okay.
Now, you might have heard of chakras before.
Sure.
But essentially, they're these spinning energy centers
Okay.
located along the spine.
Hmm.
And each chakra is associated with different functions and different aspects of our being.
Right.
And what's fascinating is that pranic healing and the law of one both describe these energy centers in detail.
Okay.
And there's some really remarkable alignment.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so break it down for me. What's the connection between the chakras and pranic healing?
So pranic healing focuses on cleansing and energizing the chakras.
Okay.
And that's because they believe that any blockages or imbalances in the chakras can lead to all sorts of
Yes,
problems.
boy, biggie.
Physical problems, emotional problems, even mental disharmony.
Wow.
So by working with prana, practitioners can clear those blockages and restore the natural flow of energy.
So it's not just these esoteric energy centers. They're actually vital components of our health and well-being.
Exactly, that's right.
Okay.
It's not just about, spiritual development. It has very practical applications.
Okay. And how does the law of one view the chakras?
The law of one says that the chakras are actually pathways
Pathways
for the flow of universal energy,
Oh.
connecting us to these higher realms of consciousness.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and it suggests that by developing and balancing our chakras, we can actually accelerate our spiritual evolution.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Okay.
It's pretty far out there.
So let's get into some specifics here.
Okay.
So the pranic healing material that you provided, it mentions that they treat all sorts of ailments, everything from stomach aches and headaches to more serious things like eye problems and even cancer.
That's right.
So how would the law of one view pranic healing in relation to those conditions?
Well, the law of one is really big on this idea that all illness is a distortion of energy.
Okay.
So when our energy flow is blocked or imbalanced, it can manifest as disease.
Okay.
So pranic healing can address those energetic imbalances
Mhm.
and create an environment where the body can actually heal itself.
So it's not that it's like curing the diseases directly. It's more
Yeah.
like it's removing the energetic obstacles that are
Exactly.
preventing the body from healing.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay.
It's like clearing the weeds from a garden so that the plants can thrive.
I like that analogy a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so
That's a good one.
so we're seeing that there's this real connection between pranic healing and the law of one.
Definitely.
And it seems like this prana, this energy, is really fundamental to our well-being.
Absolutely.
And pranic healing is giving us a way to work with that energy.
Mhm.
Okay, so I think that's a great place to pause for now.
Okay.
We will be back next time for part 2 of this deep dive into pranic healing and the law of one.
Looking forward to it.
See you then.
See you then. So the Law of One doesn't just talk about these blockages, it also emphasizes the role of will in healing.
Will, okay.
Yeah, so it suggests that both the healer's intention and the patient's desire to heal can really affect the outcome.
Yeah, that makes sense. I
Yeah.
mean, we all know the power of the placebo effect,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Like if you believe something's going to help you, it often does.
Right, but this goes even deeper than that.
Okay.
It's not just belief, it's the actual energy of will that can influence healing.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And this brings up some interesting ethical considerations, especially when we start talking about these more advanced pranic healing techniques.
Okay.
One of the sources mentioned this master healing technique
Yeah, I saw that.
involves activating and energizing certain chakras for really rapid healing.
Uh-huh.
But it also mentions that there are some potential dangers if it's not used correctly.
Yeah, it did say that.
So I'm curious, what are your thoughts on that from a law of one perspective?
Well, it sounds incredibly powerful,
Oh, it is.
but also a little bit risky.
Yeah, and the Law of One talks a lot about service to others versus service to self, these two polarities that can motivate our actions.
Okay.
So when you have a healing technique that's this potent, it really raises the question, could it be used for either polarity?
Well, that's a good question. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, could someone with bad intentions use this to harm others?
I mean, everything we've been reading has presented pranic healing as very focused on healing and well-being.
Sure, but any powerful tool can be misused, right?
I guess so.
And that's a key point in the Law of One. Free will is paramount.
Okay.
We all have the choice to use our abilities for good or bad.
So it comes down to personal responsibility.
It does, and this applies to everyone, not just healers.
Okay.
We're all constantly influencing the energy field with our thoughts, emotions, and actions.
Wow.
This is pretty powerful stuff.
So it seems like being mindful of our energy and how we're using it becomes even more crucial as we delve into these more advanced techniques.
Absolutely.
There was also that mention of distant healing,
Oh, yeah.
where you're sending prana to someone who's miles away.
Right.
And then there's color pranic healing using different colored pranas.
Oh, yeah, for
Yeah.
specific effects.
Yeah, for different effects.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
And this really highlights what the law of one says about interconnectedness, right?
It does.
If we're all part of this web of energy, then it doesn't seem so far-fetched that we could influence someone from a distance.
Not at all.
And then the different colors of prana aligning with different vibrations of light, that also just makes sense in the context of the law of one.
Absolutely. Remember, the Law of One says that light is the foundation of reality,
Right.
and different vibrations create different experiences.
Okay, so it's like pranic healing is giving us tools to work with these vibrations, to manipulate the light that makes up our reality, and the law of one is providing the context.
Exactly. It's a beautiful synergy.
Wow.
Yeah. And one of the most fascinating connections I see is between the Law of One's concept of densities of consciousness and these advanced pranic healing techniques.
Okay, how so?
Well, the Law of One says that as we evolve spiritually, we move through these different densities of consciousness.
Okay.
And each density has its own unique characteristics and abilities.
So you're thinking that maybe some of these advanced pranic healing techniques are only accessible to people at a certain level of consciousness.
Yeah, that's a really interesting thought.
Like, you need to clear certain blockages in your own energy field before you can safely work with these more potent forms of prana.
That's a real possibility.
Okay. I mean, the law of one doesn't say that directly, but
No.
it does talk about how spiritual evolution is a gradual process
Mm-hmm.
and abilities unfold as we progress.
That's right.
All this is super fascinating.
It is.
But I do want to make sure we're being clear with our listeners.
Of course.
We're not saying that pranic healing is like this magical cure-all.
No, not at all.
The sources we've been looking at emphasize that it should be used responsibly and ethically,
Absolutely.
and always in conjunction with traditional medical treatment.
Right, always.
Okay, good.
It's important to be discerning and to work with qualified
Yeah,
practitioners
that makes sense.
because pranic healing is a powerful system.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the energetic side of things and how it connects with the law of one,
We have.
but I'm curious about the more practical applications.
Yeah.
So besides treating specific ailments, how can someone use pranic healing in their daily life?
Well, one of the things I really like about it is that it's not just about fixing what's broken.
Okay.
It's also about preventative care
Okay.
and cultivating a state of well-being.
So it's like a proactive approach to health.
Exactly. It's like energetic hygiene.
Interesting.
Yeah. The sources talk about techniques for cleansing and energizing your aura
Okay.
and for shielding yourself from negative energies.
So basically, it's like taking a spiritual shower to clear away any energetic gunk.
I love that. That's a perfect analogy.
You know, thinking about all of this, the connections between pranic healing and the law of one, it makes me realize just how mysterious energy really is.
Yeah,
We can't see it or touch it directly, but it's so fundamental to who we are.
it is. It really is.
And it seems like pranic healing is giving us this framework for understanding and working with that energy.
Yeah, it's like we're getting this glimpse behind the curtain of the material world into the realm of pure energy and consciousness.
It really is.
And the law of one is like this map, this guidebook.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
I mean, we explored the basics of pranic healing, looked at how it aligns with the law of one, and even got into some of the more advanced techniques and the ethical considerations.
It's been quite a journey.
It really has.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up, what are some key takeaways you want our listeners to walk away with?
Well, I think the most important thing is that we are all energetic beings.
Okay.
We're more than just our physical bodies.
Right.
We have an energy field, an aura that interacts with everything around us.
Uh-huh.
And that energy field can be influenced, cleansed, energized, and healed.
And pranic healing gives us a system for doing all of that.
Yes, it gives us practical techniques for working with prana, clearing those blockages, and restoring balance.
And the law of one gives us this broader perspective.
Right. It reminds us that we are all interconnected,
Hmm.
that our thoughts and intentions have power, and that we're all on this journey of evolution towards greater love and light.
Wow, it's not just about healing our bodies, but also expanding our consciousness
Exactly.
and using our energy to create a more harmonious world.
Yes, exactly.
So it all begins with taking responsibility for our own energy,
That's right.
being mindful of our thoughts and our emotions and our actions.
And finding practices that nurture and strengthen our energy field.
And if you're interested in pranic healing, find qualified practitioners who can guide you.
The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
I love that.
And maybe this deep dive has been that first step.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this incredible exploration.
It's been my pleasure.
We hope it sparked your curiosity and inspired you to keep learning and growing.
May your journey be filled with light, love, and boundless possibilities. It's like taking a spiritual shower.
I like that.
Yeah, just washing away all that energetic gunk.
All that negative energy that we pick up just going through our day.
Absolutely, and the law of one would agree with that. They talk about how we're constantly interacting with the energy around us, and that it's so important to be mindful of what we're absorbing and what we're putting out there.
It really makes you think about energy in a different way.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Because we can't see it.
Right.
We can't touch it.
right.
But it's so fundamental to our existence.
To our health and our well-being,
Absolutely.
and maybe even our consciousness.
It very well could be, yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
It is.
And it seems like pranic healing is giving us a way to work with that energy.
It is, yeah.
It's like we're getting this glimpse behind the curtain of the material world.
You are. That's a great way to put it.
And we're seeing this whole other realm of pure energy and consciousness.
That's right.
And the law of one is like our guide.
It's like the map, yeah.
Yeah, it's helping us navigate this uncharted territory.
Exactly. It's a beautiful synergy between the two.
So it's like pranic healing is the toolkit,
Mm-hmm.
and the law of one is the instruction manual.
I like that.
And the more we explore this,
Yeah.
the more we learn about energy,
Right.
the more empowered we become
Absolutely.
to actually take control of our own energy
Mm-hmm.
and influence the world around us in a positive way.
And that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
It's about using these tools for good.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
We explored the basics of pranic healing. We looked at how it connects to the law of one. We talked about some pretty advanced techniques and some of the ethical considerations.
It's been quite the journey.
It really has. But before we wrap up, what are some key takeaways that you want our listeners to walk away with?
Well, I think the most important thing to remember is that we are all energetic beings.
Okay.
We are more than just our physical bodies. We have this energy field, this aura that interacts with everything around us.
Right.
And this energy field can be influenced, it can be cleansed, it can be energized, and it can even be healed.
And it sounds like pranic healing is offering us a system to do that. It gives us those techniques, those practical tools to work with prana, to clear blockages,
Yeah.
and to bring our energy system back into balance.
And the Law of One provides the context,
Yeah.
this beautiful cosmic perspective.
It reminds us that we're all interconnected, that our thoughts and our intentions have power,
Yeah.
and that we're all on this journey of evolution towards greater love and light.
It's a beautiful journey, and it's one that we're all on together.
So it's not just about healing our physical bodies.
No.
It's about expanding our awareness, evolving our consciousness,
Absolutely.
and really using our energy to create a more harmonious world.
That's what it's all about.
I love that.
Yeah.
So where do we go from here?
Well, I think it all starts with taking responsibility for our own energy,
Okay.
being mindful of our thoughts, our emotions, and our actions.
And finding practices that nurture and strengthen our energy field.
Absolutely. And if you're drawn to pranic healing, seek out those qualified practitioners who can guide you on this path.
Yeah, because it can be a powerful path.
It can be, but remember, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
That's so true.
And maybe this deep dive has been that first step for some of our listeners.
Well, we certainly hope so.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this incredible exploration of pranic healing and the Law of One.
It's been a real pleasure.
We hope it sparked your curiosity and inspired you to keep learning and keep growing.
Absolutely. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep expanding your awareness.
And on that note, we'll say goodbye for now.
Until next time.
But the journey continues.
It always does.